Okay, we're back with another episode of Hypno Talk. And today I'm here with another certified hypnotherapist with Joymind, Dustin Fisher, who has such an amazing practice. Actually, Dustin was recently our hypnotherapist of the month because he has performed so well in emotional regulation. So that's actually something that a lot of people come into hypnotherapy curious about. What does it mean to be able to regulate your emotions? What does it mean to be able to get out of fight or flight? When you're in a high intensity life moment, how do you calm down and actually get through it? And so today's episode is really into emotions, but particularly sadness, because I know a lot of us, including myself, doesn't want to feel sadness. I actually have a lot of frustration when the sadness waves come up. So I'm super excited to chat with Dustin. I'll hand it over to you. Do you want to introduce yourself a little bit in your background? And then just start us off with what really is sadness? What is emotion?
I've been doing hypnosis for a long time now. Since about 2014, I started kind of working with anxiety. That's where I started. Usually, we either start on working with some people we know or ourselves. So for me, it was myself. I needed to get over my own social anxiety. And so I used hypnosis for that. And just realizing that emotions themselves aren't the problem. And that's going to kind of lead into the sadness. But the idea is that it's actually more, in my opinion, emotional processing and nervous system regulation. So what I mean by that is emotions are normal. We're supposed to have emotions. We're supposed to feel emotions, negative ones and positive ones. So what is sadness? Sadness is protection. Sadness is a protective mechanism to prevent us from something else, right? So what I mean by that is, let's do a little exercise, Hilay. What I'd like you to do is just go ahead and close your eyes. And I want you to say something to yourself that you know is 100% against your character. It's not who you are. Just say it in your mind for a moment. It's 100% against who you are. And how does that feel?
Kind of like comical. I'm like, no.
Like rejection, right? Absolutely. Now let that wipe from your mind for a second and tell yourself something that is 100% true about your character, something you know for a fact is true. How does that feel?
It feels very like calm,
Yeah.
very
More, sure.
home.
More resonating, more calming, more correct. All right. Go ahead and open your eyes. So what this little exercise tells us, this is one of the reasons why affirmations work and why sometimes they don't feel like they're working. Because what happens is we have a belief within ourselves, and this information is coming in. And if that information is going directly against what we believe, then it's going to get rejected. And what happens is we feel that sense of rejection, that sense of resistance, and we treat it as bad. So let's just say I believe in myself and I feel really good about who I am. And somebody tells me something that judges me or something against my character. And I feel this resistance. I feel this sadness. I feel this judgment. And I'm feeling this horrible feeling that I don't want to feel. But the truth is, it's protecting my sense of self. It's protecting my belief system. It's telling me, no, I don't believe that. I don't like that idea. I'm rejecting it. And we take that sadness and we interpret it as something bad because it doesn't feel good. But the truth is, it's actually good. And so all the negative emotions, feelings, sensations that we have, sadness, anger, fear, whatever it is, it's literally just protection for our sense of self. You don't actually have to be afraid of how you feel. You don't actually have to worry about how you feel. You don't have to think of sadness in a bad way. You just think of it as a thing to come to sort of terms with or grasp with, something to accept, something to embody, something to embrace. That's really the key to it, is embracing your emotions, embracing how you feel, because it's normal and it's natural.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, sadness obviously comes in waves, and sometimes it feels really heavy, and then other times there's like this lull of something in the background. I'm curious if you have any insight on that, like when there's this big sudden surge of emotion versus when you're kind of in this just not happy, not sad, just like almost numb state. How does that, how are those two tones of sadness or emotion different variations of protection?
Sure. So the way I like to think of it is this. It doesn't really matter what the problem is. There's three components to every problem: how we think about it, how we feel about it, and our nervous system state related to it. So the way that might work is, let's just say I'm thinking of something that would make me sad. Maybe it's a dog that died, and I'm thinking of that perspective. And I have a range of sadness, let's just say from 0 to 10. 10 being the most sad I could possibly feel, 0 being nothing at all. If I'm a 2 out of 10 of sadness, my nervous system does not have to protect me from that. But if I'm a 10 out of 10 in sadness, if I really feel sad about it and I just have this overwhelming sense of sadness that my dog had died, that perspective that I'm holding, then my nervous system now has to put me into a defense mechanism, fight, flight, freeze, fawn, or shut down, to protect me from the thought or that perspective. It's a chain. If I have this perspective in my mind that my dog died and now life is going to be over and I can't think straight and all these things, and my level of sadness is so intense or so high on that scale, my nervous system is going to protect me from myself, right? Because our nervous system can't tell the difference between reality, memory, or imagination. The nervous system is the same on all of those accounts. So it's the same neurology. When we think about the past, some kind of past event, we feel the same feelings that we would feel then now. If we catastrophize something in the future, we worry about something big happening in the future, we feel those sensations as if it's happening now. And so our nervous system can't actually tell the difference between a memory, reality, and imagination. That's why we know visualization works. It's how imagery works. It's the science behind hypnosis in a way. And so the idea is, if I have this perspective in my mind about something awful happening or something already that did happen, and I'm feeling in my neurology this sadness, the severity of that sadness will lead my nervous system to either protect me from it or do nothing. So if it's just a 2 out of 10, there's nothing to protect me from. I'm not in fight, flight, freeze, fawn, or shut down. I'm not in this sensation of I can't move or I can't do anything or I can't go to work or I can't, because my shutdown response isn't there. But if I'm a 10 out of 10, then it might be. Maybe it went into shutdown. And so my whole nervous system is preventing me from living my life the way I want to now.
Comes in, and then the mind is starting to think what? That this is I'm gonna feel like this forever, I can't go on. Or some of these, like, yeah, narratives that often come, maybe you see with a lot of clients that we're looping in our mind.
So this is essentially what happens. And it's really easy to understand with anxiety, but every emotion is the same. So if I think this horrible thing is going to happen, let's just say a what if statement, something bad is going to happen, right? So what if, let's just take fear of flying, right? We'll take that one. It's an easy one. What if the engine goes down, or what if the plane goes down, right? And then I feel anxious and afraid and nervous about that. Those feelings will exasperate my thoughts and create more what if thoughts. And those what if thoughts are going to create more feelings. And it's just going to be a tornado or a chicken and egg scenario, where eventually my nervous system has to protect me from it. And it's either going to make me try to get me off of the plane, try to run. This is where you start to feel panic because you can't leave the plane, right? Or it's not even going to let you get on the plane because you're so nervous trying to get onto the plane in the first place that it's going to stop you. So either running away from it or freezing or shutting down even before you get there. Or if you're already on it and now you're starting to feel those feelings exasperate your thoughts, those thoughts exasperate the feelings, and it gets to a point where you can't control it anymore and panic, right?
Mm.
And so that's when your nervous system tries to run, but you're on a plane and you can't go anywhere. So you're stuck, you're trapped. And then that's when people start to associate that. And they start to associate, now I'm afraid of planes. You're not actually afraid of the plane. You're just afraid of the feeling you believe you might feel if you were on the plane. And so that's kind of how it gets stuck.
It's really fun to break up the sequence there, because we do think like, "Oh, I'm afraid of planes," but there's actually something in the middle that we're afraid of, and oftentimes we're skipping to the end, and that's where we don't understand ourselves very well.
Right. Absolutely.
So what would you say happens in like a really prolonged sadness? So, this is a part of your life. It's a continuously a habit, or it becomes a part of how you show up, how you walk through the world. I feel like a lot of people suffer from this experience, either being unhappy in their lives or just not having dealt with these feelings for so many years.
What I would say to that is we only ever do what we want to do. So this is a sort of behavioral psychology principle that I like to teach. At the base of everything, every behavior we do is based in positive intention. We only ever do it because we want to. Whether we're doing something or not doing something, it's because we'd rather do it or not do it than the opposite. So what that might look like is, let's just say I'm sad, and that sadness is preventing me from joy and having a good time with my friends and going places and doing things. Ultimately, what's happening is I would prefer to not do those things and stay sad. I'm actually choosing it. I'm choosing it based off whatever justification I have to decide to be sad. And that justification can come from a learned experience, a belief, an identity, a principle, a moral, a value, some kind of thought process I have. Something is justifying my decision to stay sad. And it's the justification of that decision to stay sad which keeps me sad. It's my choice. We're only doing it because we want to, because for whatever reason, it makes more sense to. And so that is the thing, right? So we have to understand it is a choice to actually feel it. And is it more important to stay stuck and feel sad than it is to enjoy my life and be with my friends? If it is, then I'm going to stay stuck and be sad. But if it is not, then we can change it. How do we do that? Well, what we do is we find the reasons why we want to do that thing. And we need to justify that to be more important than what we're doing now. And that's where hypnosis comes in. That's how imagery works and how we can process the negative emotions, reassign it to positive emotions about doing these things, right? To start to adjust the associations in the mind and the subconscious to really help that person feel like they want to go do those things, to feel less sad about these things, like they want to do these things. And then that association switch is how hypnosis can help people get out of that sadness and go towards the things they want.
So there are cases where people almost like secretly want to be sad because there actually is, like you said, everything is a choice. So there's some benefit or some secret
Absolutely.
joy from being sad. Tell us about that because I think a lot of people might be stuck. I know I feel like, when you're still in that victim mindset, there's something actually gratifying about feeling bad for yourself.
Right. Well, there's a justification, right? So it's not necessarily that they feel a sense of joy about being sad, but there's a justification for being sad. And that justification is more important than not being sad. And so it's like, okay, what's more important? Being sad and staying stuck and kind of protecting yourself from the world? Or is it more important to live your life and be happy and do the things that you think that you want to do? And if it is more important to do those things, then is it worth it? Give up the sadness. Is it worth it to change that justification you have for being sad? Is it worth it to change that perspective you have that is justifying your decision to be sad? And if it is, all you really have to do is understand the justification for being sad and tweak it. And all you have to do is really just understand that you're doing it because you want to. And if you no longer want to, you just have to change that justification. Is it really justifying? And so it works on the flip side too, right? Like let's say you're going to work and you don't really like work. Let's say you're not in the job that you want to be in and you think to yourself, I hate being here and I don't want to be here and I'm miserable being here. And at home, I don't want to be home either. And you're just having all this negative emotion, right? You're still going to work because you want to, right? And so the idea is, even though you think you don't want to, even though you feel like you might not want to, at the deeper level, the truth is you'd rather go than not go because you want money, you want a roof over your head, you want to provide for the family. And so it's about leaning into those justifications as to why you're doing it in the first place, the real justifications for doing the thing that you're doing, because you're only doing it because you want to. If you didn't care about any of those things, you wouldn't go. And so the very fact that you're even doing anything, it's because you want to. And so lean into the idea of wanting to do it and the justifications you have for doing it. And if it's not something you want to do anymore after you know those justifications, change it.
Yeah, this feels like a job for hypnotherapy because sometimes
Right.
I don't want to go in and do my day. But what you do want is to have a nice dinner and have a comfortable home, use your AC and or heater as you wish, all these like luxuries that come from having an income. I'd love to hear like some examples of how this works and what the process is of undoing the sadness burden.
Well, there's different ways. There's different processes we can use. One of my favorites is really a timeline process we could use. So something like letting yourself literally play out staying stuck in your sadness for the next year and just see how that feels. And then playing out in imagery and visualization, being without that. And then making a choice that way. Because you're in hypnosis and because you're more suggestible, and because you're more open to the ideas, what will happen is you'll see that first timeline and you'll feel the negative emotions, feelings, and sensations that you don't want to feel. And it'll associate to staying stuck. And so you'll start to feel pain about staying stuck. And then when you move it into a second timeline of feeling really good about getting out of it and living your life and being happy, you'll start to feel more positive and start to feel more open, start to feel more congruent with that. At the end of that, there's kind of a choice. It's like, do I still really want to stay stuck and feel all this pain, or do I want to move and change and be better? Visualization can do that really well. Timeline processes can do that really well. Emotional processing work can do that really well. In hypnosis, we can do so many different things that can help with meanings and beliefs and identity and emotion and help change those associations in the subconscious so that you are doing what you want to do, feeling like you want to do it, feeling less like you want to stay where you are, because most people come into hypnosis because they want to change, right? They don't want to stay where they are. Understanding it from that level through imagery and visualization, that's a really good way to understand how hypnosis can work. Seeing your life not going exactly the way you want it to and living with that for another year or 5 or 10. And that creates a lot of pain. It's like, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be there, which just gives you the impetus of change to change it.
Yeah, even just when you said that, if my life stayed exactly like this, I had this like reaction to that, and we often don't think about it. Like, yeah, it's comfortable to just go about your day and move through the rat race, but then all of a sudden you really think years are going to go by and you have wasted without really being present and actually enjoying what's right in front of you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So one theme that I know comes up a lot in a lot of clients we work with, it may not even be at the forefront of what they're seeking, but it comes up in sessions is the concept of loneliness. I'd love to hear how sadness, loneliness, the emotions that come in that process and how we suddenly maybe identify with that feeling and the impact that it can have on our lives.
One thing to understand here would be the subconscious mind is a paradox. Whatever we think the problem is, it's usually not that. Because if it was, we would just solve our own problem. And so the thing is, if you're feeling lonely, the counter opposite of that is belonging. Most likely, you want to feel a sense of belonging. There's somewhere in your life you don't feel like there's a belonging. You don't feel connected to people, family, friends, whatever it is. There's a lack of belonging. That's basically what loneliness is. And so when you think about the opposite of whatever it is, let's just say I'm trying to go after success and I have a resistance to success. Well, the opposite of that is failure. I'm fearing failure, which is why I'm resisting success, right? Same with the loneliness. I'm almost resisting belonging, which is why I feel the loneliness. And so, whatever justification I have for feeling that loneliness and deciding that I'm going to stay lonely, that's the choice I have to make. Do I really want to stay here? The idea would be, just based off what we've talked about and the principles we've discussed just now, I'm still only lonely because I want to be, because I'm justifying it for whatever reason. At the subconscious level, we have enough justification to stay that way. If we want to stay lonely, we'll stay lonely. But if we actually want that sense of belonging, we have to understand the justification for being lonely, why we're lonely, and then decide how to change that, how to tweak that, how to shift that perspective, you know?
Definitely, yeah, and I just love that everything just comes back down to the inverse, that, you're never stuck in any emotion, there's an opposite to that emotion, and let's discover what's on the other end of it and why you're leaning so far to one side. Let's figure out why. It just feels like everything just sounds solvable. You don't have to stay stuck
Sure.
anywhere.
To be honest with you, that's my belief on that. I don't think that you are actually stuck. If you're stuck, it's because you want to be. Why? I don't know yet. But we can figure that out and we can understand it and we can adjust it. And if you really do want to change, it's not that it's the easiest thing, but it is simple. It's a simple way to do it. And it's hard for some people to change because we're so stubborn, sticking to the way that we are, you know? And it's that stubbornness that allows us to not change, right? We're justified it. The more open a person is to changing, the more likely they can change. If you're so stuck and rigid and stubborn and cognitively rigid about change, about changing that aspect of yourself, I can't make you do anything you don't want to do. So it's not mind control.
Exactly, yeah, you gotta be a yes to the process, otherwise, not only does it potentially not work, or it moves really slow.
I like to think of that because how come some people can get one session change and some people might take 12 sessions? It's like, well, because somebody's holding on tighter, right? The person who's taking 12 sessions, they're holding on to their problem tighter, and it is them holding on to it, right? And that's why, even though it's a very fast modality, it's not magic. We can't just snap our fingers and make it happen, but it can seem like that in a lot of cases. And there's a lot of people who get those results because that person is open and they do want to change and they're ready. They're not holding on for dear life. When I work with relationships, this is something I teach. We only ever do what we want to do based off the behavior. So let's just say they're in a toxic relationship. And this person is telling them all the things they want to hear, all the lovey dovey stuff. But their behavior is that they're abusive and they're consistently abusive. They're abusive because they want to be. You have to understand everybody does what they do because they want to. So if they're choosing to be abusive, it's because they're choosing to be abusive. And you're choosing to stay based off whatever justification you have to stay. And it's up to you. Do you want to continue to be in that relationship or not? It's your choice. And if you want something to change, you have to be the one to change. You can't change the world. You can't change other people. You can't control other people. It has to be you. So if you want that situation to change, you have to decide, are you justifying staying in it or are you allowing yourself to get out? And is it worth it?
Yeah, and this kinda, like, ties back to emotions because sometimes it takes that, like, emotional spike to realize, "Wait a minute, my life is not what I want it to be." So as much as sometimes, even for myself, I get annoyed that, "Oh, this is such an interruption to my life," but that's actually what's really cool. The emotion interrupts the pattern, and suddenly you open your eyes and you're like, "This is actually doesn't make me happy."
If I'm only ever doing it because I want to do it and I can't even justify doing it anymore, then now I can change. It does tie into the emotions in a lot of ways because you're not stuck in your emotion. You can change how you feel. And, the negative emotions, feelings, and sensations we have, they're not wrong. They're not bad. They're normal. You're supposed to feel things. So a big concept is really just life ebb and flows. Life ebb and flows. There's going to be bad. There's going to be good. You can't know the good without the bad, and you can't know the bad without the good. And so you need both. And so it's about embracing both and not being so afraid of feeling whatever it is that you are afraid of feeling, that it's going to stop you from doing what you want. It's about embracing that feeling, coming to terms with it, and then now it can't stop you. You become comfortable in the uncomfortable, and the uncomfortable can't control you.
Ooh, I love that. The uncomfortable can't control you. I feel like I find this and as I get older in life and learn that it really takes the heavy emotions, some of the darker, stickier stuff to make the good stuff really good too. And if you avoid the heavy side, you also don't get the joy of joy, of feeling
Right.
the maximum
Absolutely.
potential. So the spectrum is so beautiful when you feel it all.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, the truth is, you can't just have everything perfect. Life isn't perfect. That's not how it works. And so, I think that's another idea that I hear all the time. It's like, I don't want to feel any of those negative things. It's like, well, how about you can feel it, but you can tolerate it and you can be resilient to it and it doesn't have to bother you. That's really what we want because I can't make it so that the world never gives you bad emotions, right? I can't make it so you never feel negative towards something. It's less about not feeling it and more about allowing yourself to feel it so well that it doesn't have to bother you.
I wanna touch on one more thing because I'm curious if people who are maybe not as in tune with their emotions or the feeling of sadness feels really overwhelming. Coming into hypnotherapy, I'm wondering if people are thinking, "Oh, do I need to feel all the feels? Is it gonna be really heavy?" And I think that can be actually quite scary to approach something if they feel like they have to go deep into the trauma, and I'd love to hear what the reality is.
It's not really that. You're already feeling it. You're not missing out on the feeling, right? Like, let's just take sadness. You're already sad, That's why you want to change it. You're not missing out on the sadness. So it's like you're already feeling those feelings. You're already feeling the negative emotions and feelings and sensations, even if you're trying to suppress it, even if you're distracting yourself from it. The next time you're in the situation, it's just going to come back because you haven't actually dealt with it, right? So the idea is whatever you're not facing, you're trying to escape from, and you can't escape from yourself. It's like confidence, right? If you think of any achievement you've ever done in your life, confidence came after, not before. You get the confidence after you achieve the goal. After you've done it 100 times, you have confidence about it, not right before. And that's just one way to look at it. Yes, you can have confidence before things, but the idea is like if this thing you're very scared about doing, let's just say it's talking on phones, right? Talking to people. And after you do it 100 times, you're going to be very confident about it. And so the idea is going into it and embracing that fear is what gives you that confidence, right? And going into the therapy to overcome the issues you're having, that's what's going to give you the resilience to know that you can do it later in life, right? So like this work isn't just it works now. It works throughout your life. That's the whole point is it's creating longevity, creates different perspectives and perceptions because what happens is you become resilient to issues in the future. If you know that you can handle this horrible thing that happened to you in the past and you can overcome that, And anything less than that is easy. And when you can do that, then nothing really is going to deter you. There might be bigger things that happen and you have to face that. But the idea is whatever you're not facing and trying to escape from, you can't escape from yourself. If you really want to be out of it, you have to go into it and you have to process it. And until you do that, it's just going to keep coming back because you haven't actually faced it. That's why they get stuck. Like we're always, like let's just say you're sad for your whole life. If you've ever heard of King Solomon before, he was very well known for his rings that he would wear. And one day, King Solomon got a stable boy and he was like, I want you to find me a ring that whenever I look at it and I'm sad, I turn happy. Whenever I'm happy, I turn sad. And he was like, I want you to find me a ring that does this. And if you do, and if you do it before the end of the month, then I'm going to give you all this land and all this gold and your family will be taken care of and all these things. And so the stable boy takes the task and takes the challenge and he goes off. And he goes to different towns and different cities, talks to different blacksmiths and jewelers. And he's telling them, I want this ring that every time I look at it, if I'm sad, it'll make me happy. And if I look at it when I'm happy, I'll be sad. And everybody looked at him with a weird face and they're like, how is that possible? That doesn't make any sense. We can't make you a ring like that. Well, eventually he finds a blacksmith that does that. And he makes him this ring. And he comes back home, comes back to the kingdom, and the king is throwing this lavish party. And he's excited and he's happy and he's laughing and he's having fun and all these things. And he sees the stable boy. He's like, hey, you found me my ring. Let me see it. So he's happy and he's looking at this ring and he immediately turns sad. And what the ring said was, this too shall pass. So no matter what emotion you're in, no matter what you're feeling, this too shall pass. I'd be willing to bet you, no matter what you feel, at some point in the day, some point in the week, it's going to change. And if that's true, then it already proves that you don't have to stay stuck. So you might as well just let it pass.